There's really no one single path. I believe in my abilities to figure things out. You're not really bullshitting yourself. You're not really delusional. Just freaking believe that you can figure this shit out. The internet has made possibility for so many different career paths.
Welcome to the Millionaire Mentorship Podcast. We talk all things real estate, business, entrepreneurship. Today, I've got a very special guest, Janis Ozolins. Janis is an established visual creator whose ideas many in the creator space find relatable and valuable. Janis, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Happy to chat.
Yes. And so you're hailing out of where right now? Estonia?
Spain. Currently, I'm in Spain, enjoying a pretty warm winter, so all is well.
Where are you, in Barcelona?
No, a bit below Alicante, so it's like a little bit smaller town, but you know it's closer to the Ecuador or whatever, so it's a bit warmer. So it's really nice.
Well, it was negative 15 degrees in Kansas City, where I'm at right now. So I'm a little bit jealous of you. Tell me about your story, what you do, where you're at right now in your career.
Yeah, it's been a good few years, as it's like I think on April I will turn 3 years since I left 9 to 5. So, you know, nice big milestone. Definitely not looking forward to go back. I don't see any reasons why I should. So being in a pretty good place. But yeah, before that, you know, just a super regular career, 9 to 5, corporate world, starting to get a bit sick of it, starting to explore some other avenues which I could take. That got really hooked on like creator economy, all these Tim Ferriss boys with laptops on the beaches, all that lifestyle felt very compelling. So I just started to research like online business, what I could do, etc. Content creation came to mind. For like 4 years, I struggled. I tried like YouTube, blogs, podcasts. Some of it just didn't click. Some of it felt like an uphill battle and not sustainable with the lifestyle I had. And then I discovered like this visual creation, which I pretty much still do, which is it's easy to digest for the consumer and pretty easy for me to create. Not like easy to create, but in terms like a lot of people ask like how do I make this stuff, and like 80% of it is like happening in the brain. You know, you can take walks or whatever and just think about these concepts, and then you sit down at the laptop and in like 15 minutes you have a thing. And yeah, that's basically how I started like 3 years back, and since then have like launched courses, done some freelance with some cool people. Yeah, just nothing crazy, super humble, but but yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, so
we can dive. Yeah,
was Tim Ferriss like a big inspiration for you?
Well, he was the guy, because I never have been really into reading books. I don't know. I didn't develop a reading habit or whatever when I was young. So, you know, and in your mid-20s, you get into this like a bit confident type of zone where you feel like, I got life, you know, I understand some shit. I'm pretty smart. So
way smarter than everybody ever.
Exactly. And when I just like, you know, whatever, 6 years back, I didn't know like, or no, 7-8 years back, I didn't know that audiobooks was a thing. And I was like, when I researched online business, I was like, the 4-hour work week, like this book keeps coming up and the title seems super compelling. Like, I wonder what's in there. And then when I discovered that there's an audiobook, so I got the audiobook version, and I still remember to this day, I was just like, I don't know, pacing in my bedroom. And I was listening to that book, and I was like 2 hours in the book, and I said to myself like silently, holy shit, Janis, you've been such an idiot. Because I really realized this feeling of like that there is so much to learn. I don't know shit. But it was like, it was a very pivotal moment in my life, because it just, yeah, my world kind of flipped. I understand there's so much to learn. I was so pumped. I like stopped listening to music, like podcasts and audiobooks was my new music. And I was just pumped on this like self-help business type of journey to learn, discover, and start to experiment stuff. So yeah, he's definitely the man who made a big difference in my life for sure.
Yeah, and it's cool to see, like, you know, I love that book, The 4-Hour Work Week. It was one of the very first books that I read by Tim. And Janis, I could tell you that got me excited about all the possibilities. Like, I mean, he was probably the first guy that really broke the mold on what a digital nomad could do and how you could set up your business a certain way that you didn't have to work from it and all the possibilities. He's a great researcher for sure. You do a lot of collaborations with successful people online, and you've met a lot of people. What kind of content do you recommend people who are new to the digital space put out? Like, I've gone from being like a guy, Janis, who I didn't want to be on anything social, right? Like, it was like my goal was not to be on it. And then I realized I had a skill teaching people how to invest in real estate and stuff like that. And I was like, well, I guess if you can't beat them, you got to join them, right? And so tell us about kind of your journey from that same perspective.
Yeah, when it comes to like collaborations and content creation, and maybe I don't know if there are some people listening who want to get in like the content creation game. I think one thing which I played pretty well was like I was really listening to my values, strengths, weaknesses. I paid attention to what I like kind of to consume, and I started there. I wasn't like, hey, there are these super whatever sexy YouTubers doing this fancy thing, let me do the same because it seems that there is success. I kind of really tried to align where is the market fit and where is like my values, interests, intrinsic motivation, where I can get some sort of overlap. And visuals was one of the thing which was like for me, as I said, like pretty easy to create, and pretty early on I felt that market appreciated them as well. And I think one reason why market appreciated it was because I had like zero credibility, zero followers anywhere. So, if you put out like a super long podcast, if you put out long YouTube video, if you put out a long blog post, it's a very big buy-in for random people to like, hey, who is this random person? Why I should even pay attention to you? But when I start with like a super simple visual that you could digest in like a couple of seconds and get some sort of idea, or I can evoke some sort of emotion from you, that like, it's like you are not even considering, do I should pay attention to this random dude online or not? But like, hey, this is interesting, and then maybe they click on my profile, they scroll around, hey, seems like whatever, legit content, interesting stuff. So that's just like a small insight. I think it's very good, whatever. If somebody wants now to go in a real estate, they might think, okay, how I can present real estate ideas differently. Okay, everybody maybe, have podcasts or long form articles or whatever, how I can maybe make this like super snappy, in terms of visuals or whatever. So yeah, that's just like a random idea. And I was like, in terms of those freelance gigs and some collaborations, I felt super blessed that I never asked for them. They came to me, and that's pretty cool. Which made me realize like the main thing online is really to generate proof. Try to build audience ethically, show that you can generate clicks, you can generate eyeballs, and if you can do that with like decent work, people will start to ask you around, like, hey, can you do this for me, or yeah, that type of stuff. So yeah, no rocket science really. It's just
for sure,
plain old boring work.
I think sometimes it feels like it though. Like, I could tell you my first quasi-viral video was like totally an accident, and and I'm like, what worked about that? Why did that get views? And then I didn't study it the way you just eloquently put it, where I was like, okay, what do I have to offer the marketplace, and how does that overlap and stuff like that? So that shows a high level of intellect. What sort of things you mentioned? Emotions. And it's so crazy, like what you say and what it can elicit out of somebody else. Have you picked up like certain terms and things that you try to make sure that you include in your content to try to make sure that you elicit those types of emotions?
Well, it's definitely one of the, like when I do my brainstorming, whatever, session, I have like, okay, let's create something about it. Perfectionism or whatever, and then I start to think about, okay, perfectionism, what type of emotions are around perfectionism, what type of events happen around okay, deadlines, deadlines, then this and that, and you kind of start to get going, and you can get to like interesting places. But to be honest, like plenty of my posts around emotions where I evoke some sort of emotion from the audience have went like decently viral or done well. Usually they come from like personal experience. And when I started, as I said, like before visuals, I had like 4 years of pretty much being a struggling creative. I was still having fun and having a blast creating YouTube videos and trying different things out and like quitting everything and restarting and buying gear and doing all the shit that you don't need to do and making all the mistakes as a creative. So I had this big baggage of knowledge, what it means and how it is to be some sort of like struggling creative. So a lot of these ideas just naturally came to me, and what I realized from like, there's this other artist on Instagram. They mostly talk about like feelings at work, like Liz and Molly. I think their account is like pretty good. They're really great. And around, just to make the point clear, around the same time when I started to do visuals, like my first kid was born, and I was reading a lot of like parenting books. And one of the like overlapping things in the parenting books that you hear is like, acknowledge your kids' feelings before giving them advice, and what I realized is like, it happens actually the same for grown-ups. Like let's say if I'm in my 9 to 5 and I come home and I'm super tired and I'm open the door and my wife waits me there and she's like, well, you look like shit. And I was like, well, you should probably not drink beer in the evening and you should sleep well. And it's like, come on, nobody wants to hear that. If I come in the door and she's like, oh, honey, you look tired. Was it a hard day at work? And I was like, yes, it was a hard day at work, and you can build the conversation from there where your feelings are acknowledged. And I kind of applied the same philosophy to like creative struggles. And I started to acknowledge these feelings, how it feels to be a sucky creator or how it feels to be a perfectionist. And people are like, oh shit, Janis gets me. Janis gets me. So that's a bit of the story about those feelings and from where it came from. And there's a couple of things that kind of click together.
Yeah. Social media definitely helps you understand emotions and feelings and things like that, and how people respond to certain words, right? Like you're like, wow, I didn't realize that creative or that piece of content was going to get my audience to feel that way. And then, or maybe you did, right? And then you say, let's post more of that because that worked really well. How do you monetize it for yourself personally?
Well, currently it's a super simple model. I guess I was in the best place you can, like a creator can be when it comes to like course creation. Of course, like when I started to create and I started to gain some momentum, I had like, okay, maybe there's a course down the line, but I wasn't really focusing on it because I guess I was in a decent place. I wasn't like desperate for money. I had a decent runway, so I wasn't like crazy, to monetize super early on. So I just focused on building audience and not really trying to plug anything or whatever. But like, I don't know, eight months in when I started my visuals, not a lot of, but I don't know, in total, I maybe got like 10 DMs or some sort of comments or some sort of indirect requests like, hey, Janis, can you coach me this? Can you teach me this? How do you come up with this stuff? And that was like the first signal. Okay, maybe there is something. And that was when I just packaged the course, pre-sold it, did great, was super pumped. That's like the first time when you like launch something and like you get more money than you earn in like whatever 4 or 5 months in 9 to 5, and your brain just absolutely explodes, and that feeling is uncomparable. But it's been good. Like, I live in like Europe and Spain, and previously in Latvia. Those are not super like expensive places to live. So yeah, it kind of covers all the bills. Basically, I would say that only that course and community supports kind of my lifestyle. Not in like super extravagant way, but pays the bills, as I said. But other than that, I'm trying to focus on newsletter as well this year, really to build on. Currently at 10K subscribers. I have tried a bit of like sponsorships here and there, but that's like very, very tiny margin. It's more like experiments. So, building the newsletter, currently working on a book, which is pretty exciting and overwhelming at the same time.
If you need any help with that, I published my own book, and I went through that whole like figuring it out type of thing, like how do you get this thing done? And I was successful, but I have a great guy who helped me get it launched and get it on Amazon and do all of that, which is an entirely different skill set. So if you ever need it, and I think the guy actually lives like over in your area as well.
Yeah, probably not this time, because I went with a publisher this time.
Okay.
For exact reason. I was like, holy shit, putting it on Amazon, doing it myself, was like, I don't want to do none of that. And I did a freelance work for like one lady on her book, and I was working with, from UK, there is this Harriman House.
Yeah.
They launched the Psychology of Money, which probably you have heard of.
Yes.
And it was just a very pleasant experience to work with those publishers. So when they said like, "Hey, I've heard you like want to work on a book, maybe you want to do it with us," so it just made sense. I felt like, okay, I have worked with these guys a bit. They take care of all the stuff I absolutely don't want to do. Like distribution and all that sort of stuff. Plus, they help me with like editing and their knowledge. So I went with them, and I have like a team behind it from that side. But thanks for offering.
How does
Yeah.
that work? Yeah. I mean, I might be interested in that on my next book, like versus like doing it myself. I don't have any. I'm with you. I didn't want to. I just didn't know to find a publisher. So how does that work with the publisher? What's the arrangements on something like that? I imagine it's like a split on what they do. They cover everything, but they probably take more of the money. But you're probably more successful based on the people that they have in their in their distribution.
Yeah, I think the opinions are very like mixed. Each person has their own experience. Like self-publishing rocks, and somebody else is like, no, like traditional publishing rocks or whatever. I think it's important to understand your goals, because clearly I think with self-publishing you have like absolute 100% control, which is pretty awesome. At the same time, one reason why I went with the traditional publisher was like I'm not the most like super productive person. I'm pretty lazy. I always try like, whatever. I don't want to do this or something. So I wanted that external accountability. We have a deadline. We have a contract. I need to put my big boy's pants on and write this book. And if I would self-publish it, it's very likely I would be just, holy shit, this is so hard. And yeah, why even bother? So that's the one reason. You need to understand where you are, what's like your strengths, weaknesses, and goals. And the other thing was like, I wasn't thinking that to make a lot of money from the book. Of course, it's a possibility, which would be amazing. But I was more like, okay, this is like a cool thing, maybe to summarize my creative journey, type of creator economy, type of, last, whatever, 6-8 years, and kind of put this maybe chapter, not really to the past, but kind of to nicely summarize it. A book feels like a nice end goal you reach on some sort of topic. And I just wanted to get in as many people's hands as possible. So that just kind of made sense for the traditional publisher. And especially as I had that nice experience with Anna, because like working on that freelance project where I really felt, at least the Harriman House, they want you to write the book you want. They will try to help you, but it will not be like, hey, Janis, sorry, we need you to write this because whatever, we are the boss, or F you, that wasn't really the case. At least thus far, they are very respectful, etc., and very helpful. And how it happens, it's just, you can go to whatever Harriman House book proposal, and there's just like a Word document form which you need to fill out. It's like a pretty hefty document you need to fill, like, your marketing channels, your this, your that, your pitch, your key selling points, this and that. There's like plenty of questions there, which you need to answer. And then they just, every 2 weeks, the team there reviews the stuff and they, okay, this makes sense, this doesn't make sense. What I will say, it's definitely a massive advantage because like I'm not a writer. I haven't even written like a blog post or whatever, and I made the book deal with them. Of course it will be very hefty illustrated, but they are really, I think, preferring to work with creators with existing audiences. If you have eyeballs, they are a lot more interested in working with you. So yeah, you just kind of fill in the proposal. Of course, if you can have some warm intros, it's nice, and feel free to reach out to me if you ever consider to work with them. I just don't know if they are from UK and you are from States. Is it like the best deal or whatever? Because I know the next book that Morgan Housel now did, same as ever, I think. Previously he did fully with Harriman House, and I think now he did partly the States. There's a different publisher in States and different publisher in UK. I don't understand. It's crazy. They're like all over the world. And of course, it's a long process as well. Like my book, I need to finish my manuscript in basically 1.5 months. Then for 3 months, we do like heavy editing, but it will come out. It will be in the bookstores only next year, April. And we need to get like the title and cover ready within a month, because their salespeople will start to pitch it to the bookstores. But bookstores buy books 1 year in advance, so it's like a whole game and interesting. But they are very interested in to make this book as successful as possible. So I think there's definitely benefits to a traditional publisher. But again, goals and all the pros and cons. And I have never gone the self-published route, so I have no idea. Maybe that's super awesome. But yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's something to learn and figure it out. But I think,
Exactly.
Either way, you're going to probably figure out one way, try it a different, and see what happens. I wanted to ask you a couple things. Many of the creator space find your ideas relatable and valuable. How do you ensure your content resonates with your audience? What themes, topics do you find particularly resonate with them?
Yeah, it's one of my. Of course, I try to stay in my niche. If I have a super interesting insight about whatever, let's say finance. I never talk about finance. Pretty much never. I don't really feel I wanna push out that content because there's like no overlap with my audience. Though it's interesting. This niche topic is very interesting because like I don't want to be boxed. I don't want to be this whatever guy for the rest of my life. So I think I really have a huge respect for people who kind of carve out where the audience is really in love with them, and they can talk about productivity and now start a freaking cooking channel, and like a lot of people will still follow them because they kind of love them. But yeah, went a bit off topic here. But usually I try to create a content I would like to consume. That is one of my I'm sure there's similar people to Janis, who similar values over there. So I just try to create shit I would like to see, and that's fine. And of course, if I see something clicks,
Perfect.
Awesome. Something fails, like drop it, but in general, just throw a bunch of macaronis at the wall and see what sticks. That's kind of where consistency, I think, is really important, because we can get in our heads and try to perfect things and think that we know what the audience want, but most of the time we don't know shit, and we just need to keep experimenting, keep it iterating, keep looking at some data and how we feel and whatever. It's just yeah.
It's tough. I know for myself personally, I have started. What I liked was not having to script anything, and I've felt like, well, maybe I need to script things more, right? Like maybe I need to double down on what I don't want to do, because it seems like a lot of the guys who have the bigger YouTube channels, they script their stuff and they plan their stuff a little bit better. So we've put an emphasis on that a lot more this year. I wanted to talk about the evolution of your creative style. Like, how has your creative style evolved over the years, and what specific influences and experiences have shaped the way you approach your visual creation?
Yeah, this is it's I don't know. Do you know Jack Butcher from Visualize Value?
I
He's
do
like
not.
he's big on X.
Okay.
And pretty much any other channel as well. But he has this brand Visualize Value, and he was like kind of the pioneer. I wouldn't say pioneer, but basically there was several visual influences in my life. One of them was like James Clear. I'm sure you read maybe some of his blog posts.
Yeah.
The habit guy, and sometimes in his blog posts he adds some sort of visuals, pretty much simple XY graphs or whatever, with some sort of charts. And that was the first time when I was like, okay, interesting. You can actually like communicate an idea in one visual, because I looked at the visual and I understand the idea. I didn't need like to read the blog post or whatever. I understood it. That was like the first trigger. And I started to experiment with, whatever, just trying to sketch things out and trying different styles. It's absolutely different from what you see currently. And then there was this Jack Butcher guy he was like, I think 2 years earlier than me, and he really started to like illustrate a lot of like Naval's wisdom, how to get rich without getting lucky, the super famous thread from Naval Ravikant. And he started to visualize a lot of that philosophy. And like with around 2 years, his primary content engine was visuals. And he made it. There was no blog post, because to me, I had always this feeling like visuals are this supplementary thing, to a blog post or something else. It can't be a thing on its own. And that Jack Butcher guy from Visualize Value, he really proved to me that, hey, it can be a thing on its own. And that's when I decided kind of to go all in. And of course, as I look up to that guy, like at the beginning, my style was like more like him, super geometrical, super perfect, or whatever. And then I just kept looking around, kept experimenting, kept just trying to figure out what else is there, what I like or not like. And one interesting thing which I did is like, I do struggle with perfectionism, I guess, quite a bit, not now, like, over the years, but in general, I did a lot. And one of the problems with the previous styles was they were kind of perfect, perfect shapes, perfect lines. You feel everything needs to be super aligned or whatever. And now, as you can see, my style, sometimes like my, fillings go outside the lines, the lines are a bit weird. They go off the chart or whatever, the font is this hand drawn, whatever font. So my style currently is imperfect, and kind of as it is imperfect, it's easy to make it perfect, at least in my head. There's this not this pressure to try to make it like, super strict or whatever, because it is this quirky, a bit all over the place style. So again, yeah, it's just a lot of iteration, and it's looking at your values. I value simplicity, I value clarity. I don't want to add some shitty background just to make whatever things interesting, or draw clever flowers on the corners or whatever, just because they don't add any meaning, any value to the idea. That's why I don't do it. I try to keep it as simple as I can, just to communicate the message. To me, I don't look at those visuals as like artsy type of stuff. To me, it's just a vehicle for effective communication. It's just different communication, but still, for some ideas, it can be really effective. So
did you ever get into the NFT space?
For a bit, yeah. When it was super hot, I did a bit. I sold some stuff. Yeah, but it was rather short period. I was like, yeah. I did.
Do you think those? Yeah? Do you think those things are kind of dead, or what do you feel about those?
I really I don't think they are dead. I haven't been in like kind of that community, and haven't really been interested in it at all for like the last 1.5 years, I think. But for example, that Jack Butcher guy, which I said, he's like big into it, and he's creating like interesting projects and stuff. But like, I'm not keeping up. I don't know what they do. They do crazy shit and like stuff, and I just it's hard to keep up with it. But I think if you're in the niche, you can make sense. But again, a bit as when I like did research the NFTs, and I started to a bit understand the technology behind it, etc. And I heard a lot of interesting applications. I think it's like I don't have a good comparison here, but you can think, it's just stupid internet art or whatever, but like the technology can be applied, I think, into so many different things that are real world kind of scenarios. There's a lot about having like whatever, tickets to some sort of sports events as NFTs, and then you have these interesting whatever, not lotteries or whatever, or seats. Like there's a lot of interesting things you can do algorithmically, and just. So yeah, as a technology, I think it will keep going, and there's a lot of awesome stuff to be done. But just as like trying to make this internet art, and hey, I have now an NFT, and this is this image. Definitely, the hype, I think, is gone, and of course there are some established creators, but the technology is, I think, good and here to stay.
Yeah, no, I'm with that 100%. I think that. The technology is definitely there, but the initial shine of that object has definitely worn off. Now, one thing that you mentioned earlier, and I think it's kind of interesting that you said it, is that you said, how inexpensive Europe is to live there, and kind of where you're living. And, I originally went to Europe in 2005, and it was much more expensive to live there than it was in the US, at least certain parts like, Italy, Spain, England, obviously, probably leading that front. Now, just recently going back to Italy this last summer, I'm like, wow, this is just completely affordable. I could see myself living there. Like as we become a digital world, right, and we become digital nomads and stuff like that, where do you see yourself? Like, you're in Spain right now? Where do you see yourself next?
Well, we're pretty happy here in Spain, because we moved here like for whole life. I lived in Latvia, and now, of course, one of the reasons why we moved was just the possibility because of this business, etc. I'm not really tied there, and I have 2 kids, 3-year-old and 6-year-old, so they were a bit like preschool age, and we thought, let's just come here, and they start the school here, and they are now like going there for like 4 or 5 months. And and it's awesome. So I definitely don't plan to like run around the world with two little kids. So we are definitely settling here for a while, and yeah, it's been 1 year here, and it's been super good, and it's a very nice experience to give kids this. My native language is Latvian. Of course, I've learned like English in school and stuff.
Yes.
But that, like, my 6-year-old speaks now Spanish, English. It's absolutely mind-blowing how quickly they pick up this stuff if they live in this environment. So that's pretty nice benefit of kind of going a bit outside your comfort zone.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Do you now have you been able to pick up Spanish?
Very, very little. Definitely
Poquito?
Still a bit of un poquito español, sí. Yeah, it's definitely not been the main kind of priority, but I definitely want to learn it, and I need to start to take it more seriously, because I don't know. I think if you move to a country and if you want to live there for a long time, like, you should respect a bit, the culture and everything, and learn the language.
1,000%. Yeah, 1,000%. Now, I did want to ask you another question, and this has nothing to do with anything that we're really talking about, but I did see this recently. Kind of hit the social scene pretty soon, and it was the view of other people on the American culture as being like, fat, obese, lazy, entitled, and I felt like, man, that's how the rest of the world views us, and I think like they're not wrong. Like a lot of the stuff, like as you live in Europe, a lot of the stuff that we have in our grocery stores, we have in our pharmacies, are illegal in a lot of other countries because they're bad for the people. And a lot of the stuff that we feed our people are bad for our people. When you look at the United States, what do you think about the people who live here?
Yeah, there's some points you brought up. It's actually, when you started to say these things, that was like the first thing I wanted to say, because like my wife 2 years ago went to like a business trip to United States, and that was one of the things she said, like, holy shit, the food is shit comparing to Europe. Like, the food is not good, and it's so hard to get something decent. So I think that is like a disadvantage for states that you have, I guess, more shit in shelves, or it's I don't know, maybe it's like more affordable, and if you want to eat like decent food, it's like absolutely crazy priced. So I don't know the case there. Here it's not that hard to, I think, eat healthy. Of course there's all processed stuff, and there's, I think, plenty of obese people here in Europe as well, because all the bad choices have been made very easy. We have like Burger Kings and McDonald's on every freaking corner.
Thank you, America. Right.
Yeah, it's it has its place in time, but
sure.
but I really don't like to. I'm honest, I don't have a particular opinion about people from United States. You can give me any country, and I'll like, there's a bunch of assholes and there's a bunch of awesome people, and I believe that's the case in every place. Like, there are some stereotypical things which, I don't know, maybe I could apply, like, I could say that French people do feel in general a bit more like arrogant, and like that type of vibe. But for people from United States, I don't know, you're just, I don't know, nice people. I've met with some people from States, always good vibes, good energy. But yeah, I've never been to States, so I guess I lack experience. But yeah, I don't have any. Your politics is definitely a freaking entertainment. That's for sure.
Let's talk about that right now. So from the outside looking in, we have a complete shit show on our hands, at least for whatever's going on. They're trying to prosecute the former president. There's been all these like alleged crimes. None of them have ever come to fruition, and they just keep making stuff up. And whether, I'm not going to say which side I'm on, obviously I think people can probably figure out that very easily on their own. But from the outside looking in, does it look like our political system's a complete joke right now?
Absolutely. It's ridiculous, guys. It's insane. Yeah. It's
like, what in particular, Janis, are you seeing that you're like, what the hell are these guys doing?
Well, I must say, I do try to avoid politics as much as I can, because it can be fucking addictive, and it's like a productivity killer,
Yeah.
So, and I've been in a good place for like 2 months. There was a bit of a time where I was like, what is going on there? But But first of all, like your current president, like he can't fucking walk the stairs, and he's just babbling and dabbling, and it feels like he's
Can you believe he got elected? Can you believe that the American people elect, or if they did elect him or whatever, or however that happened? It's crazy, right?
I don't know. I didn't remember, and I didn't pay attention to the election period, but it really does feel like he should be just sitting somewhere, maybe read a book if he's capable of doing it. But he feels like an absolute, like this. How do you call it in English? Marionette or whatever. The puppet toy or whatever. Yeah. That thing.
Sure.
And I don't know.
How did the world view Trump on your side?
Pretty negatively. I guess there was, and I think. Like now definitely the opinion have changed, but I think there was I guess the media made to hate him, and you weren't really able to articulate why.
Right.
Give me reasons why you hate him, and you just you think, and when you think more, you can't really come up, and if you dig, of course he has strong opinions, and then he's very. He has his charm or whatever, his energy, and
charisma, or they would say narcissism. It's either narcissism or it's charisma. Depends on the day, right?
Yeah. So I would say pretty negatively, but I think that's the case. It's just like, oh, he's a baddie. Oh, he's a good guy. He's a bad guy. Do you know why? No, he's a bad guy. That's basically. But you don't know much about it. But yeah, it just feels like the focus is so much on the extremes, I got pretty bummed with all the as I have kids and I'm just looking all the I don't know even what word woke means, but all the bullshit with universities and all the pronouns and stuff, and what is going on there? Why this is such a big deal? And I don't know. It's crazy. I don't know.
Is that happening in Spain right now? Are they worried about like there's a whole movement where transgendered this, transgendered that, and whether you agree with that or not, I'm not here to. This is a business show, but it's certainly not what I'm teaching my children, right? And it's certainly not what I want my children to learn in school. And some people say a boy's a boy, a girl's a girl, and if you make some sort of changes, that's whatever, right? You're entitled to do that. But once you're starting to teach about it, then it becomes my problem, right?
Yeah. Exactly. It's do absolutely what you want. I don't really care, but if you try to teach this stuff, I think to very very young kids, it's very weird and odd. And I don't think it's that crazy here. I don't know how it's the regular public schools. We went to private school, and of course I did my research and I didn't find any red flags. Walked through all the rooms, didn't find any red flags as well.
Right, but you were looking, right, just in case.
Yeah. Of course, it's my job. It's my job as a parent. But I think it's a bit different here. I don't know how it's. I think it's very big in English-speaking countries. I think in UK it's very heavy as well. I don't know. Is it the language barrier that somehow it's harder for it to infiltrate in countries that doesn't speak English? I don't know. But I think for Spain it's a bit all the gay rights and stuff, I think, have been in a very good place for a very long time. Do your own thing, you don't bother them, you don't let's just live our lives. So it's not that strong of a, I think, movement anymore here, and maybe in other countries where those rights or whatever are not really in place, and now it's kind of hijacked with this other thing, and then now everything is mushed up in this one big whatever stuff, and if that war was won, and I can agree with pretty much anything, just whatever. Again, do what you want, free country. I don't care. Just don't teach my kids this bullshit. But yeah, so I don't know. I have a bit of opinion here, but not that much. That's just some random thoughts I can throw at you.
Yeah, I was just more curious about what they were teaching in the schools out there, and is it as extreme, which it doesn't sound like it is. So Janis, just kind of wrapping up on some things. What would you tell people who are trying to make their journey on social media. They're trying to become creators, whether they're doing visual or whether they're doing, any sort of creation. What words of wisdom do you have for them?
I get asked this question quite a lot, and I think the usual answer I give is like, there's really no one single path, and I really love this quote by like a motivational guy, which is from Brendon Burchard. I don't know if you know him, but he has this nice line of, "I believe in my abilities to figure things out." And what I like about this saying is that you're not really bullshitting yourself. You're not really delusional. You just freaking believe that you can figure this shit out. And look at your past. Maybe there was a time where like, I will never learn how to drive a car, but you did.
Yeah.
I will never learn this, but you did. There's plenty of proof in your path. Why can't you figure out this stuff, And just, yeah. And I guess another thing is really the internet has made possibility for so many different career paths. It's very likely that you can map it with your genuine curiosity and find some sort of market fit. So don't just try to follow trends or whatever, but look what you like. Where is your intrinsic motivation like thriving, and where is that market fit? I'm sure there is something where you can kind of find it, and I think it's a path to more fulfilling business, instead of just following trends, creating just another prison for yourself. Now you are not in a 9-to-5 prison, you're in a self-employed prison. So yeah, again, I'm rambling a lot, but that's my words of wisdom.
I think it's a lot of great advice, Janis, and I think that you have a lot. I don't know how young you are, but you
33.
seem like you have a lot of 33. Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of good advice for such a young man, and it seems like you got your head screwed on straight, and it looks like you're going to have a very successful life and raise some amazing children who speak multiple languages. And
that's cool.
Yeah, that is totally cool. That's one thing I really think that the U.S. has just shit the bed on, for lack of a better term. It's like, okay, like you're in Europe, and a lot of people in Europe are speaking minimum 3 languages, and then in the U.S. it's like, well, you don't speak English. You don't speak English. Like we go to all these other countries, being like, English?
But it makes total sense. Sorry, but I come here to Spain, and there are so many young people that don't speak English as well. And I get it, Spanish is like whatever, one of the biggest languages as well, and they don't need it. They have plenty of opportunities. Of course, it's like you can expand your opportunities tremendously. But if I come from a Latvia where there is less than 2 million people, like if I don't learn other languages, I can just, shovel snow and pick up potatoes for the rest of my life. So
yeah, like what is growing up? I've never been to Latvia. I don't know. I couldn't point it to you on a map. So give me an idea of where it's on the map, and then like, what is it like growing up there?
Okay, Finland, right?
Yes.
Finland, then there's Russia, big Russia next to it. And then there's these 3 Baltic states under Finland next to Russia. Like we have a border with Russia, and then at the top is like Estonia, and above Estonia and a bit of sea there is Finland. So that is where it is. But no, in general, living there, it's a lot more greener, of course, than Spain. But nice, wonderful place, good people. It's just a regular European town. Nothing really extraordinary about the place. It's just nice.
Yeah, that's cool. I've traveled through Europe. I met some people from Finland. The cool thing about Europe is, you're not unlike the United States, where you're going to see all these different like kind of cultures. And in Europe, you're actually going to see different countries. And it's like, oh, I could be from Spain to the UK, it's an 1.5-hour flight, right, to go to Barcelona. If I want to go to France, it's freaking right down the road. And then you've got this different language, different culture, this different thing. And if I want to go to Italy, if I want to go here, and like you just said, you're close to Russia. And I didn't know you were close to Estonia, but it's funny that I'm building my house in Naples, and one of the guys who's got one of the nicest, or a nice house in Naples, is like the president of Estonia, or his son, and it's just crazy that the world is super small. And especially with the internet, it's become a lot smaller, a lot more. I mean, you think about this, 5 years ago, we wouldn't be able to have a podcast with you and I. And now we're able to learn about you, learn about your culture, which is so cool. And I appreciate you sharing us all these great words of wisdom. How do people follow your story? How do people follow your journey? Where do they find you?
On I guess my website, but or like a simple way I can say is like ozo.art. You can go there. That's usually I have like a little signature on my visuals, so people go there and then they just land on my website and they can click around and find me on other socials and stuff. But yeah, it's my surname or name, ozolinsjanis.com. But I know nobody who heard this can actually type it down. So go to ozo.art and that will be the place, and take it from there. Yeah, on all the socials.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you sharing your story, and I'm looking forward to following your journey. And it's really cool what you've done, and I enjoy a lot of your content, your creation, and all the artwork and everything like that. And I think you offered a lot of insight for people to take action today. So if you're listening to the show and you haven't started sharing what you have to offer, because everybody's got something to offer, do it. It's not changing. The digital world is not getting any smaller. It's just getting bigger and bigger. And each day you sit on the sidelines, it's a day that you're not taking action. So make sure you take action. Janis, I appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate you sharing your story and everything like that. And hopefully we'll have you back in the future.
Thanks, man. It was great.
All right, peace. Did you ever want to invest in real estate? Did you ever want to live the life of your dreams? Did you want financial freedom? We have a free Facebook group, the Millionaire Mentorship Facebook group for real estate investing. Make sure you join. The link is in the description. If you want to schedule a free call with me and my team and you actually want to start, I would suggest you do so. We have helped hundreds of people change their lives, and all they had to do was get started. They booked a call with me and my team, and they got the ball rolling. And I'm so confident that if you don't get your first or next investment property within the first 90 days, you don't pay, and I'll give you $1,000 cash. That's how confident I am. Obviously, you got to take action. You can't just do nothing and expect that to happen, but that's life. Life's all about taking action. Make sure you give this podcast a 5-star review, share it with a friend, and take action.